But you know what? You can go out and walk your dog instead of having that meeting that wastes time. You know what that's good for? It's good for you. It's good for the company because you're not wasting time. It's good for the community and it's good for the dog. Yeah. How can you argue?
No, I can't.
It's common sense, really.
Hello and welcome aboard. Get ready for a new journey here at the Virtual Frontier. Great you're on the way back to the show. And if you just joined recently, hit the subscribe button right away so you'll never miss new episodes. Today we are joined by Jody Thompson, a true advocate and activist for making work better. With her best-selling books, Why Work Sucks and How to Fix It, and Why Management Sucks and How to Fix That Too, she helped many people and hundreds of organizations around the globe to rethink the term of work and actually how to get the work done. I love her crystal clear way of communicating and her commitment to helping business leaders to focus on results only, forgetting about all the nonsense bullshit that is surrounding us day in and day out. But hear for yourself how to take back control over your work, start working the system and stop controlling people. Hello, Jody. Welcome to the Virtual Frontier. I'm really happy to have you here on the show. Finally, we got together. Before we start the show off and the conversation, maybe for our audience, you can give us a little introduction. Who's Jody and what you're doing?
Thank you so much, Daniel. And it's great to be here. My name is Jody Thompson, and I am the author of the book, Why Work Sucks and How to Fix It, and another book, Why Managing Sucks and How to Fix It. I am the CEO of Culture RX, and what we do is we are helping organizations all over the globe move into a results-only work environment, or Rowe. So that is the future of work. So I'm excited to talk about it today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And those two book titles got my attention in the first place. While seeing you in some comments of my LinkedIn feed, and I say, okay, this is something I have to follow up. And here we are today. Jody, maybe to kick it off, what you see has changed in the last, we can say 2 years right now, in the whole workspace, going from home office, remote, hybrid, whatever you want to call it. And what has changed in the workplace in general, and maybe what has changed in your work as you have advocated for this kind of work. I was just checking today in a video in at least since 2008 or 9. So you're like also a veteran in this area.
Yes, people think that a lot has changed. They think that because people got to work from home over the last couple of years, that all of a sudden organizations are going to be more open to working in different ways. But what's actually happened is that we've gotten more vigilant about controlling where people work from and when they work. Now, what's interesting is before the pandemic, everybody was in the office. Pretty much 2% of people worked remotely. Then the pandemic hit and everything seemed to shift where people were working remotely, or whatever you want to call that. And we see that people can get work done. But what's happening right now across the globe is everybody's trying to figure out how to get people back in the office. So what has changed? Nothing's changed. We're still managing people. We're still managing location and time. So nothing has changed.
Yeah. That's what I also see. And I have this question maybe later on. But well, maybe I put it right away. When is it that nothing has changed? Why there is such a big resistance all around this change at all from the company side, maybe in the first place, where you think maybe probably spending 30% of my time in wasting time in meetings, managing people where they are and when they're doing their work. isn't probably the most effective way, but we still keep doing the same shit.
Yeah, right.
Why? I don't
Well,
get behind it. After 2 years,
we keep doing the same thing because there's a lot of deeply held beliefs about how work should get done and the role of a manager. And so what's surprising to me is people are trying to help managers today manage the remote workforce. I don't think we knew how to manage the workforce when it was all in the office. If you're uncomfortable as a manager that you don't know if your people are working or not, how did you know they were working when they were in the office? It looked like work. They showed up. They went to the water cooler. They sat in their cube. They went to a lot of meetings. And that looked like work, but were they really actually getting the results they needed to get for their job? We don't know. When I go into workshops today and I ask, how many of you are crystal clear about the measurable results you need to achieve? I get about 20% that believe they know what they're doing. The other 80% are like, I'm not really that clear. So what we have to do today is we have to stop focusing on work location and work time as a measure of work and start getting really crystal clear with people about what the actual work is and how to measure it. People don't want flexibility. People want complete control over their time. That's autonomy. They want to decide every day where to work from and when to work. But we're all uncomfortable with that because we're not crystal clear about our measurable results. If we were, we could collaborate and work together from anywhere, every single day. That's the future. Autonomy and accountability.
what do you think about the accountability while working on this lies heavily on each individual in the workplace, in I would say in the first place, but also on the employer side to clarify what we're gonna be on what we're gonna be accountable. But how we can figure out that on the way and shifting from this narrative where we are right now to a new one where we really focus on the accountability and give the people the autonomy they need.
Well, as a manager, the first question you should ask yourself is everybody on my team crystal clear about the expectations in terms of results? Not expectations in terms of work time or where I show up or any of that. Are my people crystal clear about the measurable results they need to achieve? And if I say to myself, I don't really know if they're clear, that's where you need to start. Not with, oh, well, I just feel like collaboration's better when everybody's in the office. It's almost 2022. We have been collaborating for the last 2 years in all different locations. So why do we think people can't collaborate? People collaborate when they need to get work done. But if they're not clear about the work, they just sit in senseless meetings all day long. They've been doing it all year, Zoom meetings all day long, and still are not clear. But they do know that they need to show up for meetings. They check that box off. We have to move past that. We have to move past that and start talking about the work, not work location. I think it's interesting how we have to label everything. So before, we're all in the office, right? Now we have to talk about anybody not in the office as a remote worker or a teleworker or a flexi worker, or, there's all these weird names. And it's just work. If I'm in the office and somebody's on a different floor than I am, we're remote. Unless you're right next to somebody, we're remote. Everybody's remote. So we need to stop labeling it, stop labeling the location, and just call it the work. It's just the work.
That's just an interesting perspective. Like removing those labels will be, I guess, a really helpful step toward it. Yeah.
It's really helpful, but it's so difficult because we want to label it something. And we don't really say office worker. We label everything that isn't the office. So that is a signal to say, well, the real work happens in the office, but then we have to do something different for these remote workers. We have to think about them in a different way. Why? It's just work. Communicate clearly, get clear on measurable results, and you can stop worrying about what time did Daniel start working today, or how long did he work, or is he on his computer right now, or do I need to get spyware in his house to make sure that he's always sitting at his workstation? That's controlling people, not managing work.
And I think this gets even, just as you mentioned, the video meetings and everything, and people are, a lot of companies have tried to just shift this, what they did before in the office, now to the remote space. And I guess this having like 10 Zoom meetings per day is even more stressful than attending maybe 10 meetings in the office, right? Because you have this screen pressure, and everything is like just on the screen itself, and you get just more tired on that, right?
Yes, I agree. I think there's the fatigue of all the Zoom meetings and all the, this kind of interaction. But I think when you layer on top of it wasted time, people really get stressed out. When they know they're wasting their time and wasting their life on things that don't matter, it's very distressing for people.
Oh, yes.
And before, when people would go into the office, they just kind of said, well, this is just the way it is. But then they got into their homes and they went, wait a minute, it's even getting worse. And now you're asking me to do this hybrid thing. 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. I've had it. I'm done. And so people are opting out. They're just saying, I'm not going to do it. It's not creating an equitable experience for people. And what I mean by that is we all have different needs in the way we work, and we're trying to make it equal for everyone. 3 days in, 2 days out. Okay, that's fair. It's equal for everybody, but it's not creating an equitable experience. So it says, I have different needs than somebody else. We need to give people the opportunity to choose the best way each day to be most effective and efficient without asking permission, without having to tell everybody where you are. I mean, we're all on planet Earth. Get over it. That's where we are, planet Earth. We have technology.
Let's use it the right way.
Yeah, communicate clearly. And as a manager, you can flip yourself to being a coach. You're a coach. You're coaching a team. You're not managing the people. You're coaching them to be really good at achieving results in concert with each other. That's your job. Not monitoring how many keystrokes they're taking every day. That's a really hard shift to make because we're used to managing people over the last, 7 or 8 decades. That's what we've done. We've managed people. We tell them when to come in, when to have lunch, and when to go home.
Yep.
We're still doing that. We're still doing it. So people are starting to just opt out.
Yeah. And probably not just opt out, but what I see also in a lot of comments and posts and articles, that especially women are suffering from this approach in the last couple of years, right? Because right now they have not just to attend work, but also home. Maybe the kids are not in school or not regularly or whatever consolation we have there, but they have to bear the much more difficult part in this, right? And how we can give them a chance to really like do their work in which they're probably very good, and but at the times they need to do or they can do it, between jingling the household or managing work and the kids, whatever it comes, right?
Right. I think it's been really difficult for families over the last couple of years. And I think the difficulty lies in interruptions, right? We get interrupted a lot when we have the family at home. We could have kids that are interrupting us when we're on Zoom calls or whatever that looks like. And those interruptions are distressing. But the same thing was happening in the office. So you go in the office to try to get work done, and every 5 minutes you get interrupted by somebody who wants to chat about the weekend or, whatever that is. So we're
help me out, please.
Yeah, we're just stressed out by that. And I think that when people are trying to do the work at a time that works best for them, And they can do that, like maybe at a different time of the day or the evening or whatever that looks like. But they're put into this box of core hours or core business hours where they're fighting the time clock, the interruptions. They have to do recess with their kids. And there's just all this stuff getting in the way, it feels like. When you give people autonomy and accountability, and you're clear about the work, and they are free to do whatever they need to do with their whole life, as long as they get the work done, they can manage it better. They can manage the things that they need to do every day and want to do every day. Because when somebody else is managing that for you, it never works. I'm the one that can manage my time. I'm the one that can figure out when the best time is for me to do the work. And if you, Daniel, if you communicate to me clearly what you need and when you need it, I can plan. I can plan better if I know that. But if you and all of everybody else on the team emails me with an ASAP, as soon as possible, do this as soon as possible, what does that mean? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 days? We have to get really clear with each other so that everybody can plan and everybody can live the life they want to live without the pressure of, the hybrid policy. Putting you right back into a box. First, you're in the office all the time, box. Now you're at home all the time, box. Now you're going to put me in the other box, 3 and 2. It's just like, get rid of the box. Just get rid of it. Get rid of it. Focus on results.
However, the reality just seems to me like right now a little bit different. If you look at the high disengagement rates, someone called it already the Great Resignation. So many people are leaving around the world, not just in the US, their jobs right now. So what is missing? What we do need, or where to start really with that? And maybe you can tell me a little bit about the experience you have got over the last year or the last years in your work, helping companies to shift from the one to the another thing in work and being better at that, what you're doing.
Yep. And I can talk about that. I want to say first, though, there's been a lot of research lately about, Gallup, for instance, does surveys on employee engagement. And employee engagement, 70% of employees are disengaged or actively disengaged. And it costs billions of dollars. And so my question is, what are we doing wrong? Like we have all these programs to make people feel better and happier, and all the workplace is trying to drive engagement, but we're focusing on the wrong thing. The bottom line is people want to have control over their time, period. They want to be able to take care of everything in their life in a way that makes sense. So it runs up against the idea that people should be in the office to collaborate and we do better when we're face to face and all those beliefs. So what we do with organizations is we go in and we shift the mindset of the system, everybody in the system. We shift the mindset. You can't just say to people, don't worry about where people are. They can't do it. You have to go through a complete shift in your mind to not even care about that anymore. So it's culture change, but it's not driven by policy. It's driven by the behaviors of people self-correcting each other after we take them through training. So what we're doing, Daniel, is removing the idea that I have to know where you are every day. We're removing the idea that if you're not working between 8 and 5, you're not getting your work done. Not true. We have to take that out of our heads, and we have a way that we rewire people to remove some of those things that are the barriers to autonomy and accountability. So our organizations are on a journey. They start with training. We rip the Band-Aid off. We expose the craziness, and then we fill it in with something that's contemporary, and then they have to practice that over time until they get to a point where they go, wow, this isn't like anything else. Organizations that are certified results-only work environments did not have any trouble when the pandemic hit. They didn't even blink an eye because they weren't controlling people. So people made their choices. It's like, okay, well, we have a pandemic. I'm not going in the office. I can get my work done right where I am. I don't have to ask permission. I'm already doing that. So they didn't have to have new policies and new procedures and all of that stuff. They just business as usual. No, there has to be safety protocols for people in offices, and we understand that. So if I choose to come into an office, I'll wear a mask and do the things that are recommended based on where the pandemic is. But nobody's telling me. I'm not asking permission. I just do my job. Period. I had a couple of CEOs call me when the pandemic hit, like 6 months into it. And they said, Jody, why is everybody going crazy? And I said, because their mindset they haven't shifted that mindset yet. They're still controlling people. And when they feel like they're losing control of the people, it's very stressful on managers because they had them in a nice box, everybody in the office, and a little bit of flexibility and one teleworker there, here and there. But now they've lost control. But in a results-only work environment, you're always in control of the work, not the people, of the work. Yeah.
And I think that's the only thing you can really have control of,
right.
not the work, not the people instead of the work, right?
Yeah.
Because anything else is just an illusion. The same,
right.
It was before in a cubicle in the office. You thought maybe they are working or the team is working, but he or she could do anything else on her screen or on her phone, but not working.
Correct. Yeah, it looks like work when you're sitting in a cube. That looks like work. Is it work?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it doesn't look like work if you're walking your dog.
Yeah.
But guess what? Your brain doesn't shut off. Like my brain is always going and I'm thinking of stuff, and other people are too. But if you're walking your dog, that doesn't look like work. Even if you're working in your head. So we have those artifacts that we look at to say, this looks like work and this doesn't. But if we focus on results and the results are happening and we agree what they need to be, then walking your dog or sitting on a beach or, exercising at 10 in the morning, none of that matters. Because you're not watching that. You're watching the work happen. It's such a liberating experience to let go of the notion that we have to know where everybody is all the time. Yep. We don't do that on the weekend. It's time for a bigger change than hybrid. Hybrid work is just another iteration of flexibility control. That's all it is. It's just controlling us in a different way. Time and location.
What do you think? What needs to change for on company side or organization side to really enable people inside the organization to have the right amount of authorization to build up on that, and then have like also this autonomy inside my work, what I'm doing when I'm doing that, like from the structural side, what needs to change there? How can an organization go for it?
Well, first of all, it can't be driven by policy. So when organizations work with us, they go through a mindset shift, which changes how they look at everything. So let's say I wanted to reduce my real estate footprint. And before, I might say, well, I'm going to reduce it 40%. And I'm going to have these people in the office and these people not. And then we're going to switch around. And then we're going to do hybrid. And they orchestrate all of that. But when you go into a results-only work environment and shift your mindset, how you think about space changes. It's not that you don't need an office, but it's setting a goal of 40% less office space is only how far you'll go if that's what you choose. But if you start focusing on results, you might only need 30% of your office space. You don't know, but you're trying to fit it into an old way of thinking. So organizations are trying to solve a lot of things, Daniel. Attraction, retention, how to manage the mobile workforce, right? Engagement. They're trying to solve for real estate, all of these things, and they're doing it by a la carte methods. Policy here, policy there, policy here, policy there. But if you set a foundation, a cultural foundation of autonomy and accountability, that stuff starts to take care of itself. You don't have to have 50 more programs. You don't have to teach me how to do time management. You don't have to, teach me some of those things that I can take care of as an adult myself. And so you take a lot of the clutter out of the system, and it's better for business because people achieve better results. We've seen that over and over. It's better for people because they can live a better life. And it's better for communities because people are not shifting out of the community all day and back in at night and out of the community all in at night. There's a different kind of connection in communities when you're not driven by having a time clock be your master.
Yeah.
You have actually an opportunity to start connecting to the people and things you really want to connect to. I love it when organizations say, oh, well, we're a family. No, you're not my family. You're not. Okay. You force me to be with you all day long, but that doesn't mean you're my family. You're my coworker. You're somebody that I interface with to get work done. My family is my family.
Right.
Yeah.
You just mentioned before something about working with adults and also with grown-up people, and I think this is a really important aspect of this conversation. Because if you want to have autonomy and work on your own, you need to have first grown-up people in your team or in your organization. And I feel we haven't treated people in the past like as adults. We shifted maybe from this patriarchal, authoritarian, we shifted to something paternalistic, but this is still not like the real holy grail, right? This is still something between because we are still caring about children.
Right.
So how we get to this shift and also the people, when we treated them always like as children, how can they grow up on their own? Because this is some also gap we have to close, right?
Absolutely. I always say, if you're going to treat adults like children, they're going to act like children. They're going to try to break the rules. They're going to try to get around the rules. They're going to compete against each other to get around the rules. There's all that tension in an organization. And there's something that we like to call sludge. It's when people judge other people about how they spend their time. It's childish. I wish I could leave at 4:00 every day. Stuff like that. And did you see Daniel? Like he came in late again. I wish I had kids and could just come in whenever I want. And so this kind of language is childish. It's playground. And when we set up a system where people have to compete and try to break through those rules and are treated like they can't make adult decisions on their own, they act like children. And guess what? Adults will step up to the plate if you give them autonomy and accountability. They will step up to the plate. We've seen it in every company we've worked with, hundreds of companies, hundreds of teams all over the globe for the past 15 years. And it's sad because people say, well, I don't know, some of my people, they just need more, supervision. No, they don't. If they need that much supervision, maybe they shouldn't be working for you. If you have adults in your workplace and you treat them like adults, they step up to the plate. And they stop competing against each other. And what they do instead is they work together instead of competing.
Do you think as an organization, I do need to be patient in this process? Because I guess this is not something that you change from one day to another.
Yes, absolutely patient. It's not a flip of a switch. where a lot of times policies flip a switch. They say, this is what we're going to do starting June 1st. But with the results only work environment, it grows and evolves over time. Once you set the new mindset, then we support people in making the change through time. It takes about 6 months to really feel like, okay, we're really starting to gel in this mindset. Work still gets done during the change, but the change is so profound, people need time to go through it. And that's where we offer a lot of support to companies and teams so that we can help them sort of get over the baggage of the 20th century that's holding everybody back. But yeah, it does take time and patience.
Mm-hmm. Maybe just to dig a little bit deeper in that, what does like this real transformation look like from the result side? And well, you just mentioned a little bit about time frame up to 6 months. But what changes we can really see on the other side when you come out of that?
Well, you know, there's a lot of changes. So organizations today are measuring a lot of different things. They're measuring, you know, engagement, number one, productivity. I'm not doing that very well. I think it's hard to measure that in some situations. They're measuring attraction, retention. They're measuring a whole bunch of things in their dashboards. And what the results only work environment does is and we've seen this when we go in and do pilot teams, is the pilot teams outpace the rest of the organization in 90% of the measures. So they start operating on a higher plane of being, you know, more responsible, more accountable, clearer. They don't want to leave the organization. They want to do better work. So there's all these things that start to happen that we envision, but we don't know how to get there. Again, I've said this a million times, but you can't, put in a policy and expect that to happen. So what happens for business is they start to see waste being removed from the system. People start getting more energy and motivation. They become more engaged. They start to collaborate more effectively. Meetings drop off calendars. They start to take out meetings that aren't a good use of anybody's time. And so when that starts to happen, we're seeing huge gains. We have one organization that received 30 times their return on investment, 30 times when we implemented the results only work environment in one measure alone, 30 times their return.
Wow.
It changes everything in the way that you see the world and things around you when you stop measuring work by the currency of time and location. That doesn't mean people don't go somewhere to do work, but that's not what you're talking about. So it expands an organization's opportunity. We've seen one organization grew their top line 100% in less than 5 years. That's huge top line growth. Cost savings, less paper usage, not driving as much, better for the planet. And people start to get around this and they're excited about it because they're doing it in concert with each other, not being told how to do it, but being clear about the outcome and being able to have the autonomy to do it in a way that's optimized for every single person. That's an equitable workforce. Every single person optimizes, and then together, better work happens.
Right.
It's not, you're not going to get that with hybrid. Not going to happen.
Yeah. And as maybe we can talk about what happens when all this meetings, this wasted time, are disappearing. As you just mentioned, this is a huge time factor and also cost, right? Maybe you can what we do to reduce them, and what can be done to get there really fast.
Okay, so when we do our little unscientific polls, we ask people, how much time do you spend in unproductive meetings during the week? And they report 30 to 100% of their time is wasted in unproductive meetings. Now, when you have to fill time, you have to work your 8 hours or 9 hours or whatever the time frame is, you fill it. If you have a lot of meetings, it fills it up. But when you start to own your time, you don't want to go to those meetings that waste time. So here's what happens. A meeting organizer sends out a meeting invite. And you look at it and you go, what's the outcome? How can I prepare for this meeting? Do we really need to have the meeting at all? Is there something we can do to not have the meeting and just pass information across to each other? So people start to ask questions and they question that time spent. Is this the best way for us to get whatever we need to get done? And we found that people, when they start to have the freedom to start asking those questions instead of just getting an invite and accepting it and accepting it and accepting it without even critically looking at it. That's why we're in meetings all day long. I have hardly any meetings. I have like 5 in a week, and that's a lot. Because I don't need them. I don't need a meeting necessarily to brainstorm with people. I can brainstorm through, texting and other ways. I can send out an email and say, give me your idea on XYZ by 2:00 on Tuesday. And I get a bunch of ideas. So there's different ways to do work. And so in order to decrease your meetings, look at the meeting. If you feel in your gut like it's a waste of time, it is. So ask the meeting organizer, what is the outcome we're trying to achieve with this meeting? What is my role in the meeting? And what do I need to do to prepare so that we can be efficient and effective in the meeting? And if they can't answer those questions, decline. Let me know if there's something you need from me, but without an outcome and without my role and without prep, I don't see a use for this meeting. And you know what's interesting? When every person in the entire team or entire organization has that same mindset, they don't feel bad about those questions. They go, oh yeah, we don't need this meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't feel like they're attacked. They feel like, I'm glad you asked me those questions because when I really think about it, we actually don't need the meeting. Reoccurring meetings are the worst. When you have reoccurring meetings, you fill time. Every week we're going to have a project update meeting. And then everybody gets in there and they go around one by one and they say what they did that week. What a waste of time. We have so many ways to, see how the work is progressing without reverting back to a time when we didn't have any technology. All we had was dial phones. And everybody had to come in an office because we couldn't talk to people in any other way. So reoccurring meetings are drop off significantly in a results-only work environment because they're not necessary. If you need to meet with somebody, get really clear about why so that they can buy into it and attend. Wouldn't it be great to have less meetings?
Oh, I'm completely agree, but I'm already on your side. What you just mentioned, I probably have like 4 to 5 meetings per week, and the rest is done asynchronous. So I'm really pity about all the people that are still spending so much time, wasting so much time in meetings where they really most often don't know what or why they're attending the meeting.
Right.
And that can be removed really easily.
It's exhausting. And inviting 10 people to a meeting, 15 people to a meeting.
Oh, no.
It's just why? It's a time filler because we don't know what else to do. But you know what? You can go out and walk your dog instead of having that meeting that wastes time. You know what that's good for? It's good for you. It's good for the company because you're not wasting time. It's good for the community. And it's good for the dog. Yeah. How can you argue?
No, I can't.
It's common sense, really.
What I have experienced in my daily work, if you work with teams where there is a big awareness about the pressures of time and everything around that, and about the value. I have that in meetings done now, right, in this constellations where people are inside the meeting and they feel the moment when the meeting is finished. And they say, okay, the meeting now is finished, even if we have like 15 or 20 minutes left for the slot, right? They say, okay, everything is done. Let's go and tackle the work, right? And that's what I really love to see when people are really aware about their time, about when things are really done, and having clarity, most importantly, and on what they're doing and what they need as a result out of the meeting.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, we all know when we're done. Sometimes the meeting 5 minutes in, we know we're done because it's not even a good use of our time. But if it is a good use of your time, be done when you're done.
Exactly.
Instead of feeling, I notice people, they'll either in the beginning or the end of the meeting, they'll fill it up with, let's all go around the room and talk about what we did this weekend. No. If I want to talk to you about my weekend, I will make that decision. I'm an adult. I don't want to sit here for the next 20 minutes listening to everybody's weekend. But it's interesting how we think these kind of things build teams. It's actually, in a lot of cases, more irritating than it is helpful. We as human beings know how to connect to each other. We know how to talk with each other. We know how to make friends. We did it in kindergarten. We already know how to do that.
No.
So don't make me sit around and play childish games. I have work to do and I have a life.
Exactly.
And I'm going to go do that.
Jody, what, from your perspective, what you think, what will the future or the near future of work will look like in probably 2-3 years? And what will we have learned or understood and also implemented, like seeing it in the retrospective from now?
Well, I think in the interim term, the next 2 to 3 years, many organizations are going to move into the hybrid work environment. They're going to call it innovative and they're going to call it the future. It's just more of the same. It's nothing different. Other organizations, and we're seeing this right now, Daniel, is that more organizations are realizing that that's not going to work because people are leaving. They're not getting the talent. They have a lot of job openings and people don't want to work there. So they're going to say, what is the actual curb jump here? Like, what's going to change the game? So, fortunately, we've had a lot more companies, large companies reaching out to us in the last probably 4 months that I would have never expected across the globe. And they're wanting to pilot the results only work environment because they're realizing as they're putting on their happy faces and telling everybody how great hybrid is, people are going, no,
it's not.
I don't want to work here anymore, or I'm just exhausted from it. My life is too important. So I'm hoping that we'll go through this phase. A lot of companies will do hybrid. They'll most likely end up with 90% of their people back in the office, being controlled during core hours, and nothing will have really changed. Other organizations across the globe are going to be the leaders in creating an equitable workplace with autonomy and accountability and powered by the results only work environment. So we'll see how that goes. The more companies that get involved in the results only work environment will have more to show really about what the future looks like.
Jody, thank you so much for the conversation. And now, how could companies or people in general reach out so you get to know more about your work, what you're doing, where you're doing it? So probably we can help them out.
Yep, they can visit us at gorowe.com, GOROWE.com, gorowe.com. Go to the contact page and you can reach out to us right there and we will get back to you.
We will do. We will link that also in the show notes so people can just click on it and go for it.
Great.
Jody, thank you very much for your time and all the insights from you and your long experience in this field of work. And let's hope that we get to this new narrative of just getting the work done.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Back we are from an exciting journey into Jody's world of work. You see, often the small things can make a huge difference. Work could be so much more productive and fulfilling on all levels if you would start off by asking the right questions in the first place. We hope you found the session helpful and you can keep asking more questions around the issue of how to make work better. What have you missed in this episode? How can we do better? What are the questions that keep your pretty mind busy? Let us know in the comments and reviews. And as always, before you leave, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumb up, and share this episode around with your friends and colleagues. Your action helps us to grow. On behalf of the team here at The Virtual Frontier, I want to thank you for listening. So until the next episode, keep exploring new frontiers.